Hi, welcome to the Conversation Shop with Sedrick Page. I want to welcome you to the show today. I have a very special guest, Mr. Troy Boles. How you doing, Troy?
Man, I'm doing wonderful, man. I'm blessed. I'm highly favored. I'm here talking to one of my best friends in the whole world. You know what I mean? So I'm excited, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Well, I'm very happy to have you on the show. One of the reasons I wanted to reach out to you and thought it was important, and what you reminded me, it was very important for us to talk about investment. I don't think you see two, men of color, melanated men on the show or talking amongst each other about investment and teaching our children about money and the importance of investment and starting to build a legacy of financial health, as a youth into adulthood. So those are things that I don't necessarily, have conversations with many of my other friends about. But it's
All
also
right.
one of the things that I think is very important. And it's something that I feel very strongly as it pertains to the culture of minorities that will be taught about finance and money a lot more. I think it should be something that we speak about in our households on a daily basis. That's what this show is going to be about today. You and I are going to have a discussion about those specific topics, and hopefully we'll be able to help someone in the audience out. So, tell me real briefly, what do you think about investment or our conversations about that? Share with the audience why you're so passionate about it.
Wow. Well, why I'm so passionate about it is because, in my earlier years, in my 20s and things like that, I didn't really have a lot of options other than going into business for myself and learning about it.
Mm-hmm.
But even before that, as a child, when I look back, I actually had an interest in being in business for myself, but I didn't have anybody to cultivate that.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody in my family to really see that in me and cultivate it and help me to grow from a young man into a business owner. But I
Mm-hmm.
kind of already had that seed in me somehow. I don't know whether it's from my mother or who it's from, but I had the seed there, and going the traditional route of that everybody preaches of getting a job and just keeping a steady job and working that job for X amount of years and advancing up the ladder. That just never worked for me. So as a result, I had to turn to entrepreneurship.
Okay, let's talk about that a little bit, because from someone who knows you and respects your grind, your work ethic, at no means do I want to give someone the impression that you're not a hard worker. I think some people, when they hear entrepreneurship, work on your own, not to go and work for someone else, get up and do a 9 to 5, that they assume that that's something that's easy, that it does not require hard work. So I want you to talk about, that transition. Let's go back to, when you're a little boy, and we're out here and we're navigating money. For instance, using me as an example, I'm in my household, I knew work and you get paid and you get money. So I always grew up wanting to have my own money. I used to hide money all the
Yeah.
time. I never wanted anyone to know how much money I actually had. But I wanted to have my own money to buy my own things to take care of myself. So as a
Yeah.
youth, I always had chores. I would always go clean up, my grandfather's bar, put sodas in it, or I would help my grandmother with housekeeping, clean up around the house, washing cars, cutting grass. So I did all of those things growing up, and those were things that I was told, I'm not giving you money. If you want money, then you need to earn it. Was that something that you grew up experiencing or was taught in your household?
No, it wasn't. In my household, they would give me money. When I was a teenager, my mother and my stepfather, once she remarried, they actually were doing pretty well for themselves financially. And my mother, I never had a problem getting Air Jordans and all the latest clothes and getting any of the money that I needed for allowance and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I never really had that issue, but personally, I never liked asking my parents for anything. Even if I needed some new shoes or I needed some clothes, or if it was something that was a real necessity, I never liked asking them for it.
Right.
And so I hated that. So a lot of times I would go without just because I had so much pride. But I never, went out and had relatives that I could work for that would give me money. The first, and it's funny you even mentioned that when you say cutting grass, because the first little side hustle, I won't even call it a business, but the first little side hustle I had, I think I was maybe like 15 or 16 years old.
Okay.
And I wanted to take this girl out to the movies, but I didn't have any money. So what I did was I actually went around to the neighborhood across the street where there was a lot of old people that lived in that particular neighborhood, and I just simply knocked on doors and I asked them, could I cut their grass for a certain amount of money?
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up getting about 4 or 5 yeses. So I worked all day one Saturday, and I made my money to go to the movies, and the girl stood me up. But that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, no,
But
I'm glad you shared this. I'm glad you
yeah.
you shared that story. I do want to stress, my experience was similar. Don't get me wrong. I was given things. I was given
Mm-hmm.
money. I was, for lack of a better term, I have to tell the truth. I was kind of spoiled. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, in the midst of that, I worked. And
Yeah.
that's my grandmother made sure I worked. I complained a lot
Yeah.
about it, but in my older age, it adds to my hustle. It adds to who I am. So, as I was growing up and I'm saving this money, I
Mm-hmm.
got to be able to count my money. I have to be able to count my money. I have to be able to I have to be able to know how to save my money, to
Budget.
spend it,
Yeah.
to budget. So those are
Yeah.
things that, quite frankly, I was actually teaching myself. So I wasted a lot of money, did a lot of different things there. So in my transition of growth and transition of entrepreneurship, with me being in sales, becoming a sales professional, for me, I think it began there, from washing
Mm-hmm.
cars to
Yeah.
cutting grass,
Yeah.
uh, to, selling candy.
Right.
I sold candy, to bartering. I was a barterer.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had a candy bar and you had this, then I would trade. So I was a trader. I learned how to use my mouth and how to trade. So as I was coming up, those what I didn't know were the seeds being planted, to be a business person and
Right.
to always be pushing forward to have my own. And then
Right.
from that, I think sports just taught me how to work with others, the benefits of teamwork, having a team, but also
Mm-hmm.
leadership. So, as we
Mm-hmm.
transition, we pick up all the other skills that help us become entrepreneurs or business people. Tell
That's
me
correct.
about your journey a little bit. I mean, was it, similar things? I mean,
Yeah. My journey was an accumulation of a lot of different things, like you just said for yourself, right? Um, the main thing that I would tell people is to keep trying. In other words, if you have a business idea, all right, start it, try it, set it up. Most of them are not going
I
to
want
be
you to hold that.
successful.
I want you to hold that
Uh,
thought. We ain't made it there yet. We ain't that
okay.
far with that advice. Right now, I want to go back because I want to walk people through the mindset and the journey of someone that's a entrepreneur, the journey of someone that's a business owner. Because we talked about as you were growing up, you may had to make a decision that you didn't want to work a 9 to 5. You didn't want to get up and go work for someone else. So what I'm trying to do by talking about your youth and coming up to you making the decision and making the jump to become an entrepreneur. I'm trying to walk the
Well,
audience up to that.
when I was a youth, yeah, when I was a youth, I had no idea about really about what it would take to start my own little business or what have you.
Right,
Okay,
right, exactly.
I actually I worked 2 jobs as a youth.
Hmm.
My first job was
You say
at
youth. How old were you?
16.
So you're 16, and at 16, what did you know about money? What did you even know? Did you know what being an entrepreneur was? Did you know
No,
what
I
being a
didn't.
business owner was? So
No.
what in internally, what was it that kept pushing you towards this path of entrepreneurship? You just not liking what you were doing, you wanting to set your own path. So that's when I'm trying to. When did the
Well,
light bulb click in your head?
well, that's why I took you to a later time, because in the beginning, I had no clue.
Right.
When I was 16, when I was working at the grocery store, I had no clue. When I was a landscaper, waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to be to work at 6 a.m. in the morning every day. When I
Hmm.
was 18, working on the golf courses on Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, I had no clue.
So when you were
I was
working at
working.
when you
I
were work
was work. Go
when you were
ahead.
working in those situations, how were you feeling? Was you feeling
Well, that's what
frustrated?
I'm.
Were you feeling in those situations? Were you feeling like it was something you didn't want to do? It had to be something that pushed you to
That's
the
what I'm
path. So
going.
we're getting at is so hear me out. Was it an accumulation of all these jobs and frustrations and different things that you were doing that led you to your aha moment? We haven't made it to the aha moment yet. So what was it? Was it frustration? What got you there? So you told me about all these jobs. So tell me about how you're feeling when you're working these jobs that led you to want to
Well,
work for yourself.
that was my next thing that I was going to say. All
Mm-hmm.
right, let me go through the motions real quick, and I'm going to tell you, it's just it wasn't when I was going through those jobs, as I was about to tell you, I realized that this is hard work. You know, especially my landscaping job. This is hard work. I had no clue of how to get out of that because of my environment at the time. All right. I didn't see anybody else that was in my face at that moment that was doing something for themselves. Like, this was the way, working or joining the military.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, I felt inside that this, it has to be something like, I know that I don't like doing this.
Okay,
Okay.
hold that thought.
Period.
Hold that thought right there. When we come back from the break, we're going to move right into you having your aha moment. Okay? We'll be
Okay.
right back
Perfect.
on the Conversation Shop. Hi, welcome back to the Conversation Shop. I'm here with my very special guest and close friend, Mr. Troy Boles. Troy, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Yes, on the first segment of the show, we were talking or having discussion about, what leads you up to your aha moment of becoming an entrepreneur. And the show today is for my audience. It's going to be about, entrepreneurship, working for yourself, but also teaching your children about finance and business. And that's what we're going to be discussing today. But Troy, again, on the first segment, we were talking about your transition from, being a youth, growing up, working various jobs, getting to the point where you have an aha moment. You were sharing with us, sharing with me and the audience that, you had worked odd jobs, golf courses, done some different things. And at the time, you didn't know, as most youths, as most of us when we're young, have no idea where we're going to end up. It's not,
Right.
you didn't know, you probably didn't know what being an entrepreneur and entrepreneurship was. We just knew that maybe some people out there working, owning their own. Some of us see people that do that. Some of us aren't exposed to any of those kinds of things. Okay? So I want to
Right.
stress that to the audience. My perspective comes from a perspective that saw business owners and people working for themselves on a daily basis from the beginning. I lived in a household of that. So that's my experience. My guests may have a very different experience and different perspective as a youth when it comes to that. So my aha moment is very different from your aha moment. So again, I want to bring the audience back and let you pick up where you left off and kind of explain to us your transition into your aha moment that you wanted to be an entrepreneur. Mr. Bowles?
Well, it's kind of like you kind of alluded to. When you go through different situations, different types of jobs and stuff like that, and you come to the conclusion that, or at least I did, that there's got to be a better way than this. I mean, I'm working a lot for little money, and this obviously was in the beginning when I was a teenager. Um, and going into adulthood, obviously things changed, but yeah, as a teenager I realized, now this is not, it's got to be a better way than what's being presented to me.
Yeah, for me, I'm seeing, the knuckleheads on the corner, hustling, making all kind of money, getting cars, doing all kind of things
Yeah.
that you see or you attach to success as a
Hmm.
youth. You know what I'm saying? So, and then for me, I'm coming out of a family where they're business owners. They're already entrepreneurs. They're working for themselves. My
Hmm.
grandmother was the seamstress for J.C. Penney for 20 years. My mother worked for Humana Hospital. My dad worked for himself. My grandfather had his own business.
Right.
So it was always the women who went and worked for someone else. The men
Right.
always had their own and worked for themselves. So coming out of, my household, that's where the hustle came from. On
Right.
one side of my family, I had people who may have been out in the streets and, did things that, weren't right, but to them, they were being entrepreneurs doing what they felt they needed to do to take care of their families, right or
Right.
wrong. But it was, the goal was to teach you to get up, get out, and get something, you know. And with my family, my internal family, it was about get up, get out, and get it the right way. So how
Right.
can I move forward? So for me, entrepreneurship was there. I always knew I would eventually end up working for myself or be attached to some kind of business for myself. But also, I was accustomed to going out getting it someplace else from a corporate space as well. So I had that balance. But I knew in order for me to attain what I was seeking and what I was taught was through education, which was different from some of the other very wealthy entrepreneurs that I know now. So I want to see if you've had that similar experiences because as you and I have discussed in the past, my regret, if I have a regret, and I don't have very many, and I don't like to use the word regret, if I have to say something that I'm going to do and that I'm going to change moving forward is take more risk. I take calculated risk, but I don't
Okay.
take blind risk. Sometimes you have to take a blind risk in order to take an ultimate risk in order to get an ultimate outcome. And the older I get, the more I learn and the more I appreciate that. And with any risk you take, there are pros and cons. There's repercussions, right? So
Absolutely.
for the street guy, his repercussions is jail for many years. So for
Hmm.
him, he may say, "What I get out here in this year and a half, I got to make it count because I'm gonna lose 10 years or 8 years if I get caught." So those 3 years that what he gains may mean more to him than losing the 8 because what the money he's made there may cover the rest. You understand what I'm saying? So not to justify being out in the streets, but it's a number. You know how it is. It's a thought process and taking care of ourselves. But again, having the gumption to go out and do it yourself. So again, share with me your aha moment. My aha moment came when I said, you know what, I'm gonna go to school. And in the midst of going to school, I'm going to do it my way. I'm gonna put myself through school. So I did what I had to do to get through school. I worked the whole time I was in college, the entire
Right.
time I was in college. And I learned, I went up through many different positions, ended up being assistant general manager of the towers here in Madison, worked at the Regents managing many programs. So again, learning business. So that's my
Hmm.
transition into business was when I was at the towers.
Well, my aha moment came when I was actually working a job, uh, and bills was piling up. I wasn't making enough money,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Me also.
realized that I had to change something about myself. I believe that I saw, a couple of commercials here and there about being in business for yourself, about marketing and things of that nature, and then also, just living in Atlanta and coming in contact with a lot of individuals that were legitimately making a lot of money, especially African American individuals that were making a lot of money doing certain things, being in business for themselves. That was a major influence on me as well, I think.
Hmm.
And as a result, I know I had to make a change in that direction.
I think when you met me, we were working at Mix, and then my uncle and I had the commercial cleaning business. So
That's
I would
correct.
leave there, work at Mix during the day, and I'd go out and have my own banks and whatnot cleaning in the evening, getting that
Right.
sidebar money. But when I think about when I met you and our experience, we're sole proprietors as waiters working at Mix, and I don't think waiters or waitresses really realize that they're basically business owners. You're a 1099, you're independent, you're a 1099 employee. You really are even though you're a W-2, you're basically a 1099. You go there as a contract employee. You're working for them. You work for yourself to leave with money at the end of the night, right? And you
Yeah.
may have to have a little check, but if you're paying taxes and other things, you don't get a check. So your tips is your commission, right? So
I'm,
it's teaching you how to hustle, and it's
yeah.
teaching you how to be an entrepreneur and a business owner. And then when you're in those spaces, you're coming in contact with business owners and A and B contacts at businesses. So, to me, it's very influential. So for me, coming and being starting off young, realizing that that's when I met you just right now, for remembering that being a young business owner and really not realizing what I had with my uncle at the time, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember you had your own business and your hustles on the side, working at the restaurant, et cetera, et cetera. And, Atlanta specifically during that time, and even now, had a lot of people that were, hustling, if you will, to that degree.
Yeah.
The side businesses, et cetera, et cetera. And, as you said, being in the restaurant business, um, really plays a good influence
Mm.
if you allow it to,
Yeah.
because you do meet a lot of people that are successful, because everybody wants to come out to eat,
Right.
and a lot of those individuals have actually become my mentors over the years. The only thing that I would kind of disagree with you on a little bit, though, as far as the restaurant or being a server, being in business for yourself. Yeah, you are an independent contractor, but you're still trading labor for dollars.
Right, you
Okay.
are. I mean, you're not 100%, your boss. I get that, but for the most
Right.
part, you can earn. When I walk through the door, I understand what the mix is going to be. So if I hustle and flip my tables, I know I can walk out of there and earn what I want. If I do a
Absolutely.
professional job, if I do an exceptional job, I treat my customers well, where I get reoccurring customers coming back looking for me. You understand
Right.
what I'm saying? So I'm developing my business. So what I'm realizing is, as a salesperson and a sales professional, I'm learning good customer service. I'm learning
Yes,
good marketing skills. I'm
you
learning good
are.
people skills, because I have to be able to communicate with these people and immediately have conflict resolution
Absolutely.
skills at the same
Absolutely.
time. So if you're a professional at what you do, you understand that, and other business people have an opportunity to gauge you and watch you in that situation. And a lot of times opportunities for work comes out of those kinds of situations as well, or mentorship and advice that leads you into owning your own. Would you
Yeah.
agree with
Oh,
that?
yeah. Absolutely.
Talk to me
Absolutely.
a little bit about that, Troy, those kinds of influences, because, you know a lot of great people, but again, I think your story is amazing. I think you're an amazing man. I think you're an amazing businessman that I respect. So, on the next segment, when we come back on the next segment, I really want you to share with my audience your walk into your aha moment, because you've overcome so many obstacles. So to
Oh,
me, you are a an example, a
mm-hmm.
representative of how it should be done, how to
Right.
overcome extenuating circumstance and still come out, be positive, build your reputation.
Right.
What you don't know, you taught yourself. So I want to go into once you had your aha moment, you talked about it a little bit, but you taught yourself. I'm a friend. I watched you through all of this. So I know
Right.
the amazing
Yeah.
story. So I need
Right.
you, don't make me pull it out of you. I need you to give it to me. Okay? Because you do.
All right.
You have a story to tell. And with your permission and you being
Mm-hmm.
comfortable on the next segment, I'd like you to share what you're comfortable with. Okay?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
We'll be right
Absolutely.
back on the Conversation Shop. Hi, welcome back to the Conversation Shop. I'm here with my very special guest, Mr. Troy Boles. Troy, welcome back, man. We were having a
Thank
great
you.
conversation on the last segment, and I just want to dive right in. Troy, let's let you share. Please share with my audience, your entire walk. I think you have an amazing story that leads to you becoming an entrepreneur. As you said earlier, we're all the sums of our experiences and the people that we encounter in our lives
Exactly.
and the advice that we have that moves us in certain spaces. So just so my audience gets an idea of who you are as a whole and what led you there, take me through a little bit of the sum of all of this. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What led
Absolutely.
you, your experiences that got you here. I just wanted to be very clear.
We are all the sums of all of our experiences, obviously, and the people that we hang around, right? So my aha moment came based upon the fact that I kept, not being in a position to be where I was.
Mm-hmm.
Applying for this job, based upon my past history, because I've been in trouble before as a kid and things like that, the doors would always be shut in my face. So I was kind of forced into creating a better way for myself.
Talk about that a little
And
bit for me, Troy. Talk about, I don't mean to cut you. I want you to just elaborate a little, if you're comfortable. You don't have
Yeah.
to say what, but elaborate a little bit on the frustration of making a mistake when you're young, having
Right.
to navigate that mistake and not feeling like you're not having any opportunities that push you forward. You can't make it sometimes.
Right. Well, as a teenager myself, I made some poor decisions, got into trouble, went to jail and things of that nature. And, when you make a decision, sometimes in life, certain decisions that you make will stick with you forever.
Yes.
So it's important to be wise enough and to be humble enough to actually listen to those people that are guiding you in the right way. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I didn't do. All right. And I paid the price for that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So as a result of that, but even if you make a mistake and you change, that employer that you're going to apply for that position with, they don't know that. All they're looking at is what happened in your past. Okay. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, for many, many years, I actually was unable to really provide for myself like I wanted to.
Right.
Okay. I was able to provide for myself, but not at the level that I wanted to.
Okay.
All right. So, which led me ultimately to the restaurant business, which is how we met.
Right.
And, being in that business, and I know this wasn't supposed to be about the restaurant business or anything like that.
But it ties into entrepreneurship to me.
It ties into it because being in that business, I started out as a dishwasher.
Okay.
And ultimately ended up within 2 years, I was a manager.
Right.
But what it taught me was, how to deal with people from all aspects of life, because you deal with people from that are in, kind of on the poverty type level, but maybe they're coming out to eat because it's Valentine's Day. They don't they come out once a year.
Right.
And all the way up to those people that eat out every day.
Like me.
Corporate, yeah. Corporate people, business people, the whole gamut. White, black, it doesn't matter. So I learned a lot about how to deal with individuals and be diverse because of the restaurant business. And as a result of that, I met a lot of people who were influential, who were in business for themselves. Some of these people were worth hundreds of millions of dollars even that I befriended as a result of the restaurant business. And I have people in my life to this day that are very, very successful that I met when I was in that industry. And you know, a lot of them mentored me, and I can't give them 100% all of the credit because I did a lot of reading,
Yes,
a
you
lot of
did.
studying.
And talk to me about that. Again, before you talk to us about the studying and the reading and the self preparation that you did, I just wanted to add, just from being someone who left, you and I being friends, getting into this corporate space, traveling, business meeting, going to business meetings, and you and I always staying in contact as you were managing and being in different spaces, and you and I going out and the kinds of people that not only I brought to the space, but you introduced me to as well. So,
Hmm.
the company that you keep is a great reflection of the person that you were and the person that you are. And
Right.
you always surrounded yourself, again, and I want to say this to my audience, you always surrounded yourself with people who were reflections of you, even if you weren't
Exactly.
necessarily visualizing or where you thought you needed to be. You always surrounded yourself with people who were in the space where you were. Business minded people, business people, entrepreneurs, people that you could make connections with, that when you went to work for yourself, you could utilize the mistakes, the advice that they gave you, the mistakes that they made to push you forward. So again, just watching you make those kinds of connections in that space and being a participant of that was just amazing. And it's a testament to your personality and the respectful man that you are. So again, go ahead and walk us through the preparation, because I want people to know, in order to work for yourself, to be an entrepreneur, to be a business owner, it's hard work. There's preparation that goes into it. So Troy, as you're making that transformation, coming into your aha moment, go into there. Sorry, I just wanted to interject and share that with my audience about you.
No, that's good. No, as a matter of fact, guys, I have a free, absolutely free ebook that's coming out. It's already done, but it'll be available. It's called The Money Game, and it'll be on TroyMoneymaker.com. But one of the key principles that I wrote about in that book is I talked about mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's not a person walking this planet that did not become successful without a mentor.
Thank you.
I don't care who you, Bill Gates, Oprah, all the way down to whomever.
And my
Okay.
mentor, Mr. Troy Boles, Mr. Brown,
Hmm.
is my mentor who I met in
Yeah.
Atlanta working for Viacom, Mr. Todd Brown. I want to
Todd
shout
Brown.
out my mentor. Remember Todd?
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, being in a restaurant space, Mr. Bowles and I navigating, talking business, being in business spaces, I meet my mentor. That's been a great asset to me through my professional walk, even up to now. So sorry to interject. I just had to say that
Yeah.
about mentorship.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's very important, and also, I think you said it a little bit earlier. You attract those individuals into your life that you are most like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And not to get off into some relationship stuff, but I hear women talk about all the time meeting guys that are bad and terrible and stuff like that. And
It's a
I
reflection
always
of
say,
them.
yeah, you may need to check. You may need to do some self reflection if all that you're attracting into your life are guys that are dogging you out.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I digress. Back to entrepreneurship and how important it is. Entrepreneurship, I tell people this all the time. Entrepreneurship saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it saved my life. Okay, because without it, I would not have the peace of mind that I have. I would not be able to provide for my family the way that I do. I just would not be able to do it if I relied solely on a job.
Now
Okay, it
you
just
talked
wouldn't
about your
happen.
ebook real quick. So walk us through this again, not to cut you off, but again, you got me. Take us into the next segment, into the next break.
Okay. Well,
Tell
the
us what you
ebook.
did.
Okay, the ebook is called The Money Game.
Mm-hmm.
Is 10 keys that you need to generate at least $10,000 per month on your own. Okay, not from a job, but on your own.
And the name of the book again is called
The Money Game.
The Money Game. Remember that, The Money Game.
The Money Game, and it's absolutely free. I'm giving it away for free. You can get it at TroyMoneymaker.com, which but it'll be coming soon. Okay, TroyMoneymaker.com. The website will be coming soon, but once it is up, which will be not long from now, you can get that ebook for free.
Okay, go ahead.
But yeah, those principles that I talk about in the book are what are actually the things that I learned through over the years, right? That I say, you know what? If I just put this together, it could help somebody, okay? Mentorship, like we said before, was one of those things. Confidence was another thing, you know. I had to learn to develop the confidence to say, you know what? I'm just as good at what I do as these people are. Or this person can do it, I can do it too. They tried it and it worked for them. Let me try it and see if it works for me.
But surround yourself with people that see you as well. Remember, our interaction, we would always tell each other, I see you.
Exactly.
We don't hang around nobody but bosses, right?
Exactly.
So you can't be anything other than a boss, right?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Go ahead.
Because I know that Sedrick Page expectation of me is to be at a certain level, okay, and nothing less. And he knows my expectations of you know, how he's living and how he's progressing is at a certain level, okay. So we hold each other accountable, you know, and that's very important. And you know, and not to get off the subject, but you know, like I said, I look at you as a brother, and I've always looked up to your accomplishments as well. I know you're interviewing me, you're talking about my accomplishments, but I've always looked at your accomplishments, and that has pushed me to a higher level. And that's another aspect of it. You know, you have people around you that you can look up to and say, hey, wow, this guy's doing this. Let me try it. Let me see if I can do this as well. Or let me ask this person, how did you do this? Or what do you think about that? You know, and ultimately, not to get long-winded, but ultimately, educating yourself. And I'm talking right now to those aspiring entrepreneurs. Educating yourself is very, very important. And I know I'm going out here again.
But keep talking.
Educating yourself is very, very important to ultimately getting to a point of success. Okay. Like I said, I've read many, many, many books in preparation to even get to the point of meeting these individuals that ultimately ended up mentoring me. Because what you got to realize is these people don't want to waste their time with just anybody. All right. You have to be, you know, you have to be a sponge, if you will, for people like a Todd to even want to spend time with you.
Now hold that thought real quick. When we come back from the break, we're going to finish talking about mentorship, and we're going to finish talking about the other points in your ebook about entrepreneurship. But prior to going into the break, I want to add, as men, we have to always build each other up. We have to be happy, and we have to be unapologetic to tell the other person that we look up to them, because I look up to all of my friends, because I try to surround myself with successful people who emulate the values that I want to project for myself, people who are hard workers, people who do those things. So I say to you, Mr. Boles, prior to going to the break, I've always looked up to you as a friend, as a young homeowner, one of the youngest people that I know to even have his own home when I didn't have my own place, even when I worked for myself. So again, there's checks and balances through all of our lives. So again, in your flattery and your respect of me to say that, you know, you've looked up to me in spaces and my accomplishments, brother, I've always looked up to you in all of your accomplishments in life as well. And I want to state that. But guys, we'll be right back on The Conversation Shop. Hi, welcome back to The Conversation Shop. I'm here with my very special guest, Mr. Troy Boles, and we're having a conversation about entrepreneurship and being business owners and investment. So again, Troy, on the last segment, we dove right into the principles of your ebook. And again, share with my audience the name of your ebook.
It's called The Money Game.
The Money Game by
Troy Moneymaker, and it's the 10 keys that you need to learn how to earn at least $10,000 per month from home.
Okay. And again, we were on the last segment, we were talking about one of the principles being mentorship, and as surrounding yourself with a great mentor, and also surrounding yourself with friends and people that emulate you, that represent where you're at and where you want to be. And again, within that friendship and that mentorship, making sure that there's true, honest, open communication, and that we're always pushing each other forward. Meaning it's okay to look up to a friend and have that same friend look up to you, because that's a sign of mutual respect, of accomplishments, achievements, and who you are as a person. So Troy, I want to dive right back into the conversation and finish taking us through the points of becoming a great entrepreneur and accomplishing the monthly income that we discussed with your ebook.
Right. Well, like I said, one of the other aspects or keys, if you will, is self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because and this is huge. It's huge. I mean,
You got to believe in yourself.
It may be even beyond the mentorship part, because you will never even get to the point of getting a mentor and things of that nature unless you have self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that I struggled with as a kid. I believe, personally, as I look back, I believe that was due to the fact that I didn't have my father around. Mm-hmm. And it affected my self-confidence, in playing sports and things of that nature. But as it says above the temple doors, man, know thyself. When you know yourself, then you know how to compensate for what's lacking. Right. If you don't know yourself, you don't know, how to compensate for what's not right with you. Mm-hmm. So having confidence in yourself, confidence enough to say, you know what, I believe that I can step out on faith and do something better with myself. Mm-hmm. I believe that I can, maybe you want to start a little restaurant, or maybe you want to start your own little hair boutique, or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. But if you don't believe that you can actually accomplish it and that it will work, you will never even start it. So, yeah, that's one of the other major keys of the book is self-confidence.
But also, if I may add, with self-confidence, you have to have that carry you throughout your business, because starting a business, having the confidence to start it is one thing. Having the confidence and the endurance to maintain it and to see it through is equally as important. And I think a lot of us, when we start businesses, we tend to look for advice from other people. And sometimes that advice isn't always the best advice to get, or doesn't come from a good space. So again, you have to be confident in your own decisions to whether you sink or swim on your own. It's okay to kind of ask and get opinions, but you have to be confident enough for the buck to stop with you. But again, Absolutely. Go ahead, Troy.
And also, another thing you have to do is you have to get rid of your money hangups.
Yes.
A lot of us have hangups about money. We have the wrong philosophy about money, because mainly I think because of our upbringing. Mm-hmm. If you grew up in a household that always talked about lack, and always talked about how money doesn't grow on trees, and always talked about how, rich people are evil, or, they must be doing something dirty to get that money. If you kind of grew up in that environment, then it can affect the way you perceive money.
It's a very, very limiting way of looking at the world. I call it the haves and the have-nots. When you view the world and you're looking at the world through those kinds of spaces, I call it the mental slavery. And I hate to say it, that a lot of people, a lot of melanated people, and a lot of people as a whole have that, for lack of a better term, have that disease. And, you have to work hard to rise above it and to get past it, but not to cut you off. I want you to finish walking us through those steps. Go ahead.
Yeah. The money hang up step is a big issue for a lot of people because, again, their perception of money actually keeps money away from them.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take credit cards for an example.
Mm-hmm.
Even the word or the term credit card, send chills up some people's spine because they have a negative relationship with credit cards because they were uneducated originally how to handle credit cards.
Or how to manage them, right?
How to manage them, So maybe in college they got some credit cards and they messed up and now they were in debt with the credit cards. So what they don't understand by them not being taught how to utilize other people's money properly, meaning you don't utilize a credit card for income or treat it like it's income, it's a cash cow. You utilize that to actually make more money with it.
Right.
Okay. So I'm not utilizing the card to go shopping for clothes. You utilize, you can as long as you pay it back that same month. Mm-hmm. But if you utilize the card to assist you with your little side hustle, whatever that may be, or to start your own little business, now you're utilizing it properly, what it was made for. So that's just another aspect of the book.
And if I can interject real quickly too,
go ahead.
I just wanted to say one of the things we always talk about in sales is, and you touched on it, is perceptions with money. And one of the things is what I perceive as a lot of money, you may perceive is not a lot of money. So we have to break those boundaries because $1 million purchase, I got a $4.3 million quota. So someone spending $1 million with me is not a lot of money. $100,000, $500,000 with me is not a lot of money, but you could take someone else and they ask someone to spend $400 and they scared to ask them to spend $400. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's perceptions and having those hangups can keep you from being a successful salesperson, not understanding, though that perception actually limits you. So again, Troy, we got about 4 more minutes before we end the show, and I want to give you an opportunity to finish walking us through those steps.
Okay. All right. So, but one thing I wanted to jump to really quick also with those steps, because there's 8 more steps to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get the book, The Money Game by Troy Moneymaker. But teaching our kids, man, is one thing I wanted to hit on. I know you say you got a few more minutes left. Yes. And that is, catching our children early enough. And their minds are so open and so sharp that they can handle a lot more than what we think they can handle at times, knowledge-wise.
And give me an example of what you're doing with your own family, if you don't mind, or you're aware of other people doing to educate their kids over money, trying to give people examples of what to do.
Right. Well, my children, I have a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old, and they have their own business. All right. They have their own LLC called Infinite Investing, LLC. So I walked them through the steps of setting up their own business and also taught them the importance of having their own business, the tax benefits, also the benefit of being, your own boss and being in control of your own destiny. I'm teaching them, and I'm making a conscious effort to teach them how to handle money, the importance of money, the importance and benefits of being in business for yourself. We actually have weekly meetings every Sunday. I make them sit down on the couch, and we actually go through our goals for the business and what we have accomplished the previous week, and what we need to accomplish in the upcoming weeks.
Now, tell me how you're discussing, and I love what you just said, but elaborate a little bit on how they're understanding, specifically on how they're understanding how this works and how money plays a part of it.
Well,
if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. They understand very well how it works and how money plays a part in it because I keep it simple.
Okay, yes.
And that's where a lot of people go wrong. is that they think that this thing is so complicated, and that, you know, it discourages them from even diving into it or studying it. Because some people do make it complicated, but with my children, we keep it very simple. 1 + 1 = 2 all day long. Okay? So what we need to do is we need to find a product or create a service to sell someone. All right? What do the people need, or what do they want? Like right now, my children have an Amazon e-commerce business. Okay? So we went through the steps first of educating ourselves on how to sell on Amazon. So all three of us are sitting and we're learning from other people that are doing it already, right? And we're just following the steps.
Well, Troy,
Wash,
I think,
rinse, repeat.
well, Mr. Boles, I think that's amazing what you're doing with your children.
And the key thing that you hit on, and that you always hit on, and you're absolutely right about this, is learning how to sell.
Yes.
Okay. The most successful business people in this world know how to effectively sell. They're either it's a service they're selling or a product they're selling. They know how to sell.
And it's value. So it's
And
market,
it's value.
service, product, value.
Right. So teach your kids how to sell. Teach your kids how to set up their own business. If you don't know how to set up your own business, holla at me, Troy Moneymaker. Matter of fact, my Instagram is @TMoneymaker. All right, @TMoneymaker. You can go to my Instagram, send me a DM, and I'll help you out in any way I can.
Okay, that sounds great, Troy. Any words of wisdom you want to leave my audience with before we go?
Words of wisdom that I would like to leave your audience is have faith. All right, I know it sounds cliche, but have faith and belief. Okay, and in addition to that, you know, what you want to do is set a goal for yourself and work the tasks that it takes little by little to accomplish that goal, day by day. All right, and you will automatically see things change for you within a month, 2 months, 3 months. Things will be much better for you, or you know, you'll get to where you're trying to get to. That's what works for me.
It's a perfect way to end our show with educating my audience on little nuggets on how to educate and teach your children about money. And I want to thank you, because when it comes to that, you're my mentor in that space. It's something that I talk about. It's something that you've actually put in action in your own household. I thought I did, but it's you, okay? But again, sir, I want to thank you for joining me on the show. Guys, I want to thank you for joining me on the Conversation Shop. And again, we'll see you next time.